Hey, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today on this episode, let's talk about my Mercury engine, or your Mercury engine if you got one at home. And if you're watching this video, you probably have a Mercury or are thinking about getting one. And one of the beautiful things about the Mercury four-stroke engines, the current models, is that Mercury put a lot of energy into these engines to make them very user-friendly for anybody at home to do some of the major maintenance items, such as changing the oil filter, changing the fuel filter, changing the lower unit fluid. All those things are very, very simple and easy to use, or easy to do with just the tools that you have, pretty much everybody has in their garage. And so I like to do my own maintenance because I like to just be hands-on, know it's done right, and know everything about it in case I do have to troubleshoot something on the road. So it just is part of my process. And I really highly suggest that you at least try it once, doing your own maintenance, whether it's oil change or lower unit or something like that. And I've got videos on this channel on step-by-step process on how to do those. But on this video, I wanted to talk about a couple things. The first thing that I want to talk about is like changing the oil after, sooner than the 100 hours that Mercury recommends in their manual. And of course, defer to the manual. If you question something, defer to the manual. I am definitely not an expert at this. I'm not a trained professional when it comes to Mercury engine maintenance and repair, so defer to the manual. However, I have come up with my own series of best practices over the years. And one of the first things that I do is when I get a new engine, this one right here, we just got done fishing the Bassmaster Open on Sam Rayburn, and I've got about 15 hours now on this engine. And going into the next event, I'm probably going to put another 10 or 12 hours on this engine throughout that tournament at Kentucky Lake. And one thing I like to do, and I highly suggest it, I'm not sure exactly if it's in the manual, is I like to change my my oil, the oil filter, and also the lower unit fluid, the gear case, lube, at around 10 to 20 hours, okay? At those first 10 to 20 hours. And the reason for that is, I know it's much sooner than the recommended 100 hours, but generally during break-in, you're getting extra wear. You're getting a lot more of that metal dust just naturally. There's nothing wrong with the engine. It just naturally accumulates a little bit more of that metal shavings and stuff that you might see, that glitter that you see in your gear case fluid. You generally don't see it in your engine oil, but the gear case fluid, you will see, kind of that fine dust in there. But just drop something on the floor. But anyways, so I like to change my gear case fluid and engine oil after the first 10 to 20 hours. I think that is super important. It's just a really good practice for a new engine. And then beyond that, as far as the overall oil changes throughout a year, and when I say oil changes, I mean just regular maintenance, oil change and the gear case lube. I like to do it personally, just how hard I run these boats during the season in tournaments, making long runs, running full throttle all the time. I personally like to have 50-hour intervals, okay? Again, manual is going to tell you 100 hours, but if you use your engine, in those extreme conditions like we do in tournament fishing, it's really important to go ahead and maybe up that interval a little bit. And I go every 50 hours. I mean, I just don't want to leave anything to chance. I want to make sure that this engine is running properly. So that's my personal preference. I even carry a oil pan and a pump for the gear lube and extra oil and these seals for the lower unit fluid. Or the plugs, and then also oil filters. I even carry an extra fuel filter with me in case I have some issues with the fuel system with me on the road. And so if I fall in that 50 hours to 60 hours or 70 hours, I can at least change it on the road. Even though, again, you don't have to, because the manual says that it's every 100 hours. I'm not sure exactly on the time interval. You'd have to look at the manual for that. But personally, I think that if you're using it in a competitive fashion, you're running it real hard at high RPMs for extended periods of time and coming off pad real fast and just putting it through some rigorous paces, 50 hours is actually probably a really good interval. And, again, if you don't end up doing it until 100 hours because you just don't have the time or something like that, that's fine. You're still within the recommended interval range. But anyways, 50 hours is kind of what I do personally. But that's just my personal preference, and also because I do my own maintenance on here. So as I said, some of the items that I carry with me and always have a bunch of, because I hate it when I've got oil, but I don't have an oil filter. I went to the a dealership the other day and got a bunch of these oil filters. So I'm stocked up on oil filters. I think I've got 4 of them over there. And then these little puppies, these little lower unit plug seals, these I carry a bunch. I actually bought, I think, 8 of them at the dealership the other day. Those you definitely want to keep on hand. You want to change those out every single time you either check your lower unit fluid. I mean, that's kind of iffy. I'm sure that you could potentially get away with it, but I just err on the side of caution. I always swap those out if I pull the plug on the lower unit. So you got those. You've got the high percentage or high performance 90 weight gear lube. Those things are really important. And then, of course, whatever oil you're putting in this engine, because you can use several different types of oil depending on the weather conditions, the temperature ranges, and the climate that you're operating your engine in. So anyways, guys, those are just some thoughts. Those are how that's how I kind of decide on my maintenance intervals, and also the equipment that I bring with me on the road to be able to do all of this out there when I'm fishing tournaments. So Mercury, again, makes it super easy. So if you guys have any questions at all about any of this, drop a comment below. If you have a comment about it too, drop a comment below. Other than that, make sure you like, share, subscribe. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm going to see you out on the water. Trust the process.